It does help. It does help having a more of a tutorial style versus, you know, the just talking. It's really, it does give them information and then they can actually see it. The video content's been really fun to do too.
Yeah, definitely. Bentley's so good. Such a star.
He does like to perform.
Yeah.
So Joanna, we are going to be showing some video of you and Zena for people to just kind of like talk about the body language, because we're going to go into like reading body language in a little bit. So
very good.
Yeah.
Zena's
actually,
very expressive.
Yeah, this particular video you've never seen. It's from my friend Diane was recording on her on the what's the little camera called?
Oh, the GoPro.
The GoPro. And she was recording on there, and she was too close to the tree, and Zena really wanted the tree, and you're like, can you move?
Oh yeah, I know what situation you're talking about.
Yeah.
I remember because Zena was really pulling, and I know Zena was towards the tree, but I know what's gonna happen next.
Yeah. And Diane was just like clueless. I'm like, we're in a reactive dog class. Let's back up, you know. So anyways. All right, Julie should be here any minute. Some of you guys are not muted, so if you'd like to say hi. Otherwise, let's see, allow to talk. Oh, Julie, let's promote you to panelists. All right.
Hey, you.
Hi, how are you?
Doing good.
Hey, Ashley.
Hey, Julie.
Little Jade there.
Jade just came in and heard your voice and came to say hi.
Aw. That's awesome.
Yep.
So this class is, once we start the class, obviously we can't see you. And right now I've got some of you, the audio is on. I'm trying to unmute everybody, but it keeps, yeah, it's okay. Anyways, some of you I can't hear, but we can hear some of you, and we cannot see you at all. It's a webinar base, so we'll be sharing the screen, but feel free to wear your pajamas or eat in front of us. We can't smell it, we can't see it, and when we start, we also can't hear you. So if you're smacking, we won't be able to hear that either.
We will have the chat window up, so if throughout the webinar you guys have questions, please send us a chat or a question. We're happy to answer those as we go, or all together at the end if necessary. So,
all right, so we're going to get started. So let's go over just a few rules. All right. Hi, Erica. I see you. I don't really see you, but I see your name. So raise your hand if you really have a question that you want to tell us. Otherwise, just use, like Julie said, the chat button. We are able to check it throughout the class, so we can try to answer your question if it's relevant. Otherwise, we'll have some time at the end to go over any of your questions. This class is recorded, so we will have a link. It usually takes about, I'd say about 8 hours for me to upload it to YouTube and then download it to our page and stuff. So it does take quite a while, but it's free, and you can have it and share it a little bit later. Class is going to be about an hour. We'll usually get done about 10 minutes before, so we have time for questions. We are donating like all of our time, and the class is completely free. So all we ask, if you can do us a big favor, is just screenshot a picture of what we're doing in class, or a picture of your dog using the hashtag CanineLearningAcademy.com or Canine Learning Academy, or using the little @ sign on Facebook or Instagram, and just bringing to people's attention from all over the world that we have an online free class. We are taking donations for people that are not part of our program, that are not student dogs. Other than that, all of our classes, and we just launched 2 other classes that start this Thursday and Saturday, and they are interactive. So this is a webinar-based class, and the other one is a meeting where you and your dog will participate in class. If you don't have a dog, that's okay. We have for our tricks class on Saturday, she was on the Hallmark channel. She is a trick expert. Her dog performs in movies and TV. Laura Nativo is going to be one of our trainers. So it's going to be 3 of us along with Curtis and Laura. So all 5 of us will be teaching that class together. So that's going to be a riot. So that's this Saturday at 10:30. So hoping for the technical smoothness that Julie and I so far have gotten. But I think if we have 5 panelists, it's going to get a little crazy, but should be fun anyways. All right. If you're here today, you are here for the Rowdy Rover online group class, and Julie and I put together some fun stuff that I don't know if you've actually learned about yet, including you, Joanna. So excited to show you some emergency U-turns, some emergency things that you can implement right away with your dogs walking. So let's go ahead and dive in.
For some of you that were in the last class, we're going to repeat the training methods: luring, capturing, shaping, targeting. We're going to go over the different leashes. We had questions last week about the different sizes of leashes, when to use them, when's best to have them, what's legal in our area. So we put up a slide about that. Like Yo said, emergency turns, using luring, U-turns, and T-turns. We're gonna target to move and treat on the go. So this is a really awesome one. You'll see that my dog has a lot of fun with it, and it's a good one to practice, especially now that we have so much time. We're gonna go into another group for breed specifics and breed specific enrichment, talking about our Batt Zones, which is that's my favorite part. Yo will be talking about body language, stress signals, and then we have a little challenge for you guys, desensitizing under your dog's threshold, and then interval walking, which is a really cool video that Yo and I shot this morning, and it was a lot of fun. So these are the 4 training methods that our company specifically uses throughout the day. Luring, taking some food or reinforcement like a ball in Joanna's case, up to your dog's nose and using it to pull their face or their body in a particular direction. Great for Rowdy Rovers when we've got an emergency. We've got to bail out of a situation. There's triggers all around us, or there's a trigger off in the distance and we need to turn our dog's position. Teaching new tricks.
One thing about, for this particular class, we're going to show you luring because it's relevant. When you are using food, smelly hot dog, cheese, and not just one piece, when it comes to moving your dog out of the way, instead of having to pull, we're talking a whole handful of a whole handful, it's been a long day, a handful of food, place it in a fist and put it up to your dog's nose and then slowly move it away. So when emergency turns, use what you got to lure your dog into position or out of the way. Okay.
Right, yeah, when we're teaching other things, we typically don't use the lure, or we only use it for a very, very short time and then we fade it out. But for our Rowdy Rovers, we're going to be talking about how to use it effectively and efficiently and quickly. Capturing, as a lot of you guys know, capturing just like a camera, if you're using a marker or a clicker, you are identifying the moment that your dog did what you were thinking in your head, whether it was a sit or a down. You can capture things that happen consistently and happen throughout the day. So our dogs typically lay down during the day. If you were going to capture one of my behaviors, by far it would be playing with my hair, right? So I play with my hair all the time. You could mark that. You could put it on cue. Same with my dog. She tilts her head a lot. She looks at me like this all the time. So I put it on cue, and that's one of her cute tricks. So it's got to be something that happens a lot or happens enough for you to reinforce it to make it happen more Shaping, we're taking a big, broad overview of our goal, whether that's, you know, teaching a service dog to go fetch something out of the fridge, or we're just shaping it down. It's taking a big, big goal and just slicing it down into tiny, tiny little pieces so that your dog and you don't get frustrated by trying to accomplish the whole thing at once, which we see day in and day out. You know, we have a goal in our head and we want to make our dog do it, but they have no idea what's actually in your head. So we want to help them figure it out by shaping it a little bit at a time.
And
then
targeting, we're going to show a little bit later, along with luring. It's moving your dog in a certain direction. In this case, we're going to show you nose targeting. And after today's class, I want you to go back and actually work on nose targeting to teach the 2 different turns that we're going to be working on later. So you can use targeting to move your dog into a certain direction. You can also use luring. We're going to show you both. All right.
But to use targeting effectively in those busy situations, you definitely have to practice it
before you have a situation.
Yeah.
All right, so the leashes, last week we talked about the 3 size leashes, and you've got your 4 to 6, you've got your 10 and your 15. Again, this is just broadly. When I first got my puppy, I'm like, I want him to walk really close to me. So I had a 1 and 2 foot leash. And although that's, you know, they do have them, it's specifically you would use a leash that's short, or even 4 to 6 foot when you're walking in the normal sidewalks where there's multiple people passing. So you're not saying, hey, let's go sniff. It's an exercise walk. It's 4 to 6 feet, very little stopping. If you stop, you're taking 1 step to let them sniff a tree or go pee, and then you're going right back onto the sidewalk. That's the size of the length. But for using a leash, how you determine what length that you're going to use is best determined by where you need your dog to be. So if there's people walking and they're walking on a 10-foot sidewalk and you're on the outside, there has to be 100% chance of your dog not interacting with that other dog. Reacting, fine, but not connecting with that dog. So does that mean you only need 2 feet? Possibly. So every situation is different, but a shorter leash is for a busy street or when there's multiple triggers and you need to get on out of there. Smaller leash. The 10-foot leash is great for your normal neighborhood walk. And we're not saying that you have to use a 6 foot, a 10 foot, a 15. We're just saying, like, if you have a 10-foot leash, you can go down to 4 feet. You can also go all the way up to 10 feet. So I don't say go get
no matter who you are, do not use those damn flexi leashes.
Yeah.
Don't do it. You will hurt yourself. Your dog will hurt themselves. It will result in pulling. Just don't do it. Just throw it away. We'll get you something better.
Yeah. So the 10-foot leash size is good for this type of sidewalk, or if you live in a quiet neighborhood like Pam, perfect neighborhood, you go out walking and then you let your dog kind of go over to the neighbor's yard and let them sniff and then they come back on. I like the 10-foot leash. The 15-foot leash is only going to come out when you really have some open space and there's no triggers, you know, because a lot of the parks in Long Beach are closed. In this video, we're using a parking lot, and in the parking lot, there's some cars and then there's some little intervals of green so that your dog can go out and smell. So let's play this video. So we call this the 6, the 10, and the 15 on leashes, but they're all different sizes based on what you prefer.
So this is, yep, Opal and I on the go. This is our loose leash walking. We're moving through. This is a longer leash that I've shortened to 6 feet because I'm trying to keep her off of this nice brand new grass that they just installed. that we were over there.
Watch, she goes from her loose leash walking training to watch when her dog really does want to sniff. She's influencing sniffing by relaxing her hands, putting 2 hands on the leash and taking a deep breath. And automatically, she probably didn't even know she did it, but Opal went out and went to go sniff whatever was out there. So it's almost like giving your dog permission. This is how you can use a longer line on a normal walk. And here we have Go ahead.
I have a cue for Opal. I actually tell her go sniff and then let's go. You don't have to have it on cue, but just giving your dog a signal like my body is going to stop and relax to allow you a little bit of free time is helpful for your dog.
And this is so good for your dog to take the time to go sniff. So I like it. She walked into the area influencing her to go sniff. Take your time. And while her dog's sniffing, she completely stopped. Then she goes back into her loose leash walking, right? And then she influences her to go here by just dropping her hands and kind of either cueing her, go sniff, or influencing direction by kind of stepping into that yard.
Yeah, just relaxing myself as well allowed her to, we don't have to work really hard right now. I can have a little bit of freedom. So we're in right now big open parking lots, especially around the beach areas or around the marina. They're super smelly and they're pretty much empty right now. So going out there when it's not so hot and taking your dog out just to practice your skills and your comfort level. This is the perfect time for reactive dogs because so many people and their dogs are stuck inside their houses. So let's take advantage and help expose your dog under threshold and have a little fun. And then this is me. You missed it in the video, but I'm specifically looking all around because just because I'm in a parking lot doesn't mean something can't come around the corner.
And remember last week we talked about the changing triggers. So if your dog's trigger is a bicycle or a car, you're going to be treating that trigger exactly the same way you would as if it was a dog on leash. All right, so the U-turn and the T-turn, I want you to imagine you're on a sidewalk where there's multiple people coming and particularly a dog coming in the same direction. A U-turn means the dog or the trigger is coming in the same direction and you have taken a look and you have the ability to just halt in the other direction to give you a second to kind of figure out what you want to do. You might want to cross the street, but like on Main Street, which you shouldn't be on anyways, or Belmont Shores or Ocean Boulevard, sometimes you have no choice. So if you're in your neighborhood and you're like, if I cross the street, there's that dog that's in the fence, behind the fence, so you're going to U-turn. A T-turn is you look forward, you look back, and you're like, oh crap. A T-turn is I've got no choice. Oh, all right. So U-turn, you have one choice of direction. You're going to go back the same direction that you came, and you're going to take a deep breath, and you're going to figure out, and you're going to like hyperly look at the environment and figure out where you're going to go next. T-turn, you have no choice. You're going to have to stay there. So hopefully that explains. Again, if you have any questions, please text them. Yeah. All right. So this is your emergency bailout. By the way, you do want to practice the U-turn and the T-turn when you don't need it. Don't wait to teach your dog this. Like when you're out and you're like, oh crap, you really want to just kind of work on this on your normal walk. So your homework is going to be, I want to see you practicing this. All right. So
in a parking lot, at an empty school, in a industrial neighborhood, anything. She's warming up with her target behavior.
So to warm up, you can do follow the target or treat to the nose and lure. And you see, I'm not just presenting, this is a nose target, I'm presenting and moving. So I'm trying to get some movement with Opal before we start.
And you can see she really loves this kind of game because it takes her mind off of triggers and stressors that are around her. She would much rather focus in on getting rewarded.
The U-turn is directly here. The trigger is in front of me. Now notice that I switch the hand that's closest to the dog is where I'm going to control the leash for a second. Where we normally control it here when we're in loose leash walking, I'm switching it because I have more control if that left hand is on my hip, if the dog is walking to the left. They literally only have about 18 inches of leash when I do this. So here's the switch in the leash. And then I'm using the targeting hand, which is the outside hand, to get the behavior. And then I switch back once we're in the direction. I pay the dog, pay Opal on the move. My feet actually move faster, so I slow down before the U-turn, and once I'm in the opposite direction, I speed back up. So it's slow, turn, speed. All right, so the T-turn again. Go ahead, Julie.
Pause for a second before we get to the T-turn. I want each of you to practice treating on the go, whether it's right into this nice heel position that he's in, that she's in, or in a general direction. Treating on the go, I watch people think about it and you hear it and it's totally possible, and then you start moving and you get flustered and your dog is there. So practice putting a treat in your hand, holding it, and walking with your dog before you get into the mechanics of all of the targeting and everything else. Learn how to walk with a treat in your hand is a lot harder than it sounds. So practice that as well.
T-turn, heels to the wall. So wherever that end wall is that you're going to end up backing up into, your heels are going to be on that wall. So if you're in a neighbor's yard, well, then you've got their entire lawn to go all the way and use that. But if you're on 2nd Street, all you have is a department, a store. So you're going to put your heels against the wall, against the curb. If there's a car right there, you are backed up. You're touching, maybe your butt's touching that car. So heels against the wall is that first thing I want you to think of. That's where you're going. So this is, again, nose targeting. She's really good at this, but you can literally put food in your hands and then lure them.
Reason we're calling it a T-turn is because you can see that she's placed perpendicular to Yo's body. So it's just keeping your dog's nose at you instead of behind them, where that trigger is probably moving or passing. And her heels are all the way on that curb. So she's not in the street, but she's as close as she could safely be.
So I'm doing it on a curb and there's obviously no cars there, but imagine there's a car there. That's where your position is. You'll also notice that my leash hand, my handle hand, my right hand is on my sternum, and my core is totally engaged. I am prepared to engage and turn on my ab muscles in case Opal does want to turn left or right. So even though I'm not pulling her, I am holding position. And then treat placement.
By the way, we're identifying this cone that's up front. That's supposed to be her trigger. That's the trigger that Yo is turning her away from, is that cone front and center there. So
yeah, so the treat placement, I am feeding her right while she's looking at me, and I'm feeding and holding it as long as it takes for the trigger to go away. And then I pick which direction I want to go. I can continue going the direction I was going, or I can turn around based on where the trigger is going after they pass. So when you see the trigger, you do want to slow down first, get your heels to the wall, hold your position, and just start feeding. Hold the food to their mouth and let them nibble on it the entire time the dog is passing, and then make a decision where you want to go. So T-turn, no choice, U-turn. So there's me holding the treat, waiting. I'm like in her mouth, and then I'm done, right? It's over.
So you guys are being awfully quiet out there. I hope we haven't put you to sleep, but if you do have any questions about this, how it's used in your neighborhood, how it's used in an emergency situation, please ask the question, let us know what you're thinking about all of this, so that we can help clarify if you do.
So here's what luring would look like. I've never done luring with Opal, so I was kind of curious what she would do, but I put the treat to her nose, let her nibble on it, and literally she followed anywhere I was going. So, and there is a nice T-turn and heels to the wall.
Good question, Pam. What do you do when they're not interested in treating? You're probably a little too close, because I know that Sasha enjoys food. She takes it on a regular basis, but if you're too close to that trigger, she probably won't be taking food. So if you're in your neighborhood, this would be a great time to mark and move. If it's a T-turn and you're stuck where you are, I know for a fact that Sasha loves you so much that if you get in with her and give her some real serious love, she's going to focus on you, less so about that trigger. But it is something that we come across. If my dog is too nervous to take food, I'm going to sit there with her and try to be as exciting as I can to keep her attention on me instead of the thing that's passing behind them.
One thing I did here with Opal is, you seeing me, I'm really low. So I have used up all of her peripheral vision. I'm like right there. I'm as close as I possibly could be, besides putting my head right in front of hers. And that really does make a difference too. So if you can like kind of get a little bit shorter and crouch down just a tiny bit, don't put your head in your dog's face, and that will help to get their attention. Oops, let me fast forward that. So I'll just finish that slide. So here's the rest of the luring to a T, luring to a U, or yeah.
So luring is that metaphorical string on the end of your dog's nose that's pulling them in whatever direction you want. It's pretty effective, but you're right, Pam, it doesn't always work in that emergency when they're too stressed out to take food. So practicing this before you need it. We're probably going to beat that dead horse all night. Practice, practice, practice all of these skills before you need it. Just like an athlete, you don't jump into the championship game and expect that you're going to play your best. You have to warm up, you go to practice, then you can play the game. So for our breed groups, we're going to go into our sporting group dogs today. This is going to be your retrievers, your pointers, your setters, and your spaniels. So typically water and woods and forest and hunting and farms, these are great dogs for that because they love a good job. They love to hold things in their mouth and root around with their nose. They're excellent with problem solving, but they tend to get hyper focused on things because that's what they were bred to do. They were bred to go and find one thing and bring that one thing back out of all the 15 other things that just fell out of the sky. So if you notice that your dog is hyper focused on things, a lot of times we hear, my dog's stubborn or my dog's dumb. No, they have a job in their head and they're doing that job, whether it's digging or getting into your trash or licking every human to get their scent and their sweat off of them. They know what they're doing. They have a very specific task in mind. So if we want to prevent them from finding their other jobs like digging or chasing cars, we want to give them the proper amount of enrichment. So these dogs really love water. They love using their nose and they love licking things. So very, very enthusiastic about licky mats, about interactive feeders. These are usually the brute of the bunch. They like to throw things around and slam them on the ground and figure out how to get their food out, especially important for those dogs that gulp. Labs and Goldens typically inhale their food all at once. So this is a way to increase their brain power while motivating them to complete the job because they're getting their full meal. And it's just really important to keep them occupied because, again, this is an appropriate job. This is a job that we would like for them to accomplish. But if we don't give them that sort of outlet, they will find their own.
So those of you that are now working from home, you're going to notice that your dog is a little more needy. So here are some examples of interactive feeders. Some have your dog working independently and they're moving all the way around the house, making, really loud noises of slamming. Some of the interactive feeders that we're featuring here are quiet place, things where you can place on a dog bed and say, hey, why don't you hang out here? So they all can be used differently. If you're working at your desk, like all of us are right now, and you're working on a computer, giving your dog a Kong or a ball that's got little, open pieces in it and putting it on their dog bed is going to influence them to go to their dog bed and hang out there for a little longer than they normally would. So you don't have to purchase any of these. You can always just make your own, but some of these are really inexpensive. A lot of them I've had for years. Like this one's one of my favorite ones. I've got several of these blue ones. What are they called? The paws something?
They're called West Paw, and my dog actually has this one over on her bed right now, and you'll notice that my house is 100% silent. She would rather be over there than where she usually is, which is her nose creeping up into the meetings to say hi to everyone. She's happy eating her dinner over in the corner because she has something long lasting to keep her attention off of me, her favorite person.
Some of these are only $3 or $4, and then some, you know, cost a little bit more, but I've had some good luck with even dogs that are normally pretty rough on toys. But this can entertain your dog for 45 minutes to hours.
And it definitely doesn't have to be anything fancy or treats. We're using kibble in this particular example. So feeding your dogs regular meals, ditch the bowl, get creative with your dog, give them an outlet for all of that brain activity that's bothering you while you're at work. I think all of us now feel what it's like to be stuck inside all day like our dogs. And if you don't get a chance to go outside, you're gonna need something else to do, a puzzle, a TV show, anything like that. This is your dog's TV show, right? So we wanna give them something interesting to focus on. And if it's really messy and you wanna use wet food, yogurt, pumpkin, this is a great thing to give them on their bed or in their crate so it doesn't get all over your floor.
And the challenge is to make the interactive feeder fun, and your dog wants to do it. So you want it to be easy enough to keep them interested, but not so easy that they get bored. So try to come up with a different feeder of some kind every single time, or at least once a day. If you have the means and you're able to buy multiple like Kongs and stuff, freezing them adds a lot of duration, adds a complexity for the puzzles. So it's also a way to just be able to have it on the go. So if you're working all day and you're just like, oh, freeze them, stick them in the freezer, and they're good to go, and you can just pop them out every hour and a half to 2 hours. Highly recommend.
We have some DIY examples on our website and our social media, so check those out as well.
All right, let's dive deep into Batt.
So here are our Batt Zones. I just put the 2 of the 3 examples. There's also the freeze, the dog that has nowhere to go and they just play possum. It's okay if that's your dog. This is just 2 examples, the flight mode and the fight mode. So your dog, if we think of stress as the water slowly rising on your dog, once we get to the blue zone, we're approaching the shoreline. But right then, if you'll give it a click, this is where we hit our threshold. So we keep talking about this magical threshold line. The threshold is the point at which your dog can naturally disengage. So if your dog is able to look at something and then a couple seconds later say there's a butterfly over there, they're going to look over at that. If they're able to naturally disengage and be involved in their environment, they're below threshold. If their feet are starting to get wet, we're adding little bits of stress. We've had some triggers come by a little bit at a time. We're going to be working into that yellow zone. And this is the area where your dog can no longer process information. They can no longer help themselves because they would if they could, right? Your dog wouldn't choose to bark, bark, bark and be stuck on a leash if they really had the choice. They would make a different option, like running away, running towards the dog, going and digging a hole, all of these other options. But if they can't naturally disengage, if their brain turns off and they don't know what to do, this is where we as humans come in and help with a gradual prompt, having those small prompts to help see what level they're at. Obviously, as we get into the orange zone, our dogs are panting, they're showing more and more stress signs. You're going to see 3 or 4 stress signals in a row, and okay, my dog's getting a little overwhelmed here. This is when it's probably, if you're thinking of the water's like right here and you're trying to swim and you're doing your doggy paddle, but it's stressful. You already feel like you can't breathe and you're getting really, really nervous. And then of course the red zone, when our dog is way over their head. They're freaking out, they're barking, they're lunging, they're physically shaking for some scared dogs or trying to run away. All of those things are red zone, and that's when you need to bail out. That's when we need to go home and start over because it's not going to get better from there. So talking about...
Yeah, notice that the yellow or the orange, the difference between flight and fight, two dogs that are in the same zone are going to look completely different, right? So just knowing what does your dog do? You want to understand what that body language looks like so that you can go, oh, this is the zone that my dog is in or potentially is about to go into.
And it's a fluid scale. So they're going to move. There's no like, oh, my dog blinked twice there. It's not an exact, that is the line. But you know your dog, or at least you should by this point. You know when your dog can look and disengage or look and move on. And when they can't, they're approaching that threshold or they're crossing it. So we're going to talk about desensitization. I think this is our next slide. Under a dog's threshold. Oh, never mind. We'll talk about stress signals first.
There's a lot of different stress signals that most dogs are going to display before they go into being over the yellow, be over threshold or at threshold. So what we thought would be fun is to specifically focus in on one stress signal each week and to practice just looking for that one stress signal so that you can almost learn the entire spectrum, learn all of the stress signals easily by just doing one a week. So here we have my sheets covering. We're going to focus this week on the lip lick. I always say lick lip, but the lip lick. It is a stress signal that a lot of dogs will let you know, hey, I need some help. So it's just the very beginning stage of I might go over threshold. Let's see. Oh. So the challenge this week from start tomorrow until next week is we want you to count how many times you see the lip lick with your own dog. Now, if you're not supposed to be watching your dog and your dog's home and you're out and about, you can also count how many times you see the lip lick on another dog. But if you're out on a walk with your dog, you always have your eyes on your dog, right? You look in the environment, but you're focused, hyperly focused on your dog. So count how many times you see a lip lick. Also notice, is it after I just gave the dog a treat? Is it a more of a like, ooh, that was good? Or was it in face of a trigger or something that they're like, what was that? Right.
If you're holding an Oreo in front of their face and they're licking their lips, that's pretty clear that that's the reason they're doing it. So if you watch this video, Joanna, you are featured here. We're going to count. Actually, I just want you guys to type or shout out if we can unmute a couple of people. I don't know if we can do that.
Some people can't be muted. I think that they've got the control on their end, but let me unmute a few of you and tell them what you want them to do while I try to unmute a lot.
So as we're watching this video together, I want you guys to just start naming stress signals. So a few of them are going to be ears down, tail up, body shake, lip lick, whale eye, any of those. Obviously we're not right next to the dog, so we can't see every part of her body, but I want you guys to just practice observing and seeing what about this dog is telling you that they're in a stressful situation or that there may be stressors around. So either shout it out, type it up. We want actual interaction. So if you've walked away, you better come back now.
So give them a few examples of what we're looking for. And again, type or shout them out. There's a lot. So we want to hear a lot of responses. So we're just going to ask for your interaction for the next 2 minutes while we watch this video. And then you can go back to eating or whatever it is you're doing. So Julie, give them an example of what are the words that we're looking for?
So, could be a lip lick, could be head down and up, could be looking around really quickly. Sometimes we call that hypervigilance. Tail tuck, tail in a flagpole. any sort of descriptor of body language. Please don't say an emotion. She looks happy, she looks sad. That's not really what we're focusing on. I want to know about her body language. So tell me what you see.
All right, ready? Here we go. So here's the challenge. Read that body language.
Shadow dancers.
Looking around, lip lick.
Very nice.
A little bit of avoidance.
Avoidance. That the mouth is stiff, that open panting, but it's like a stiff.
But do you notice how a little bit, you also look a little bit stressed right here. Look at your body language.
And how tight the leash is.
Tight the
Yeah,
leash is.
you were a little bit stressed there too.
Yeah, because the camera woman was right there.
But you'll see right before that, maybe we call that a smile or pulling the lips back. She was opening her mouth a little bit. That's a stress sign.
Watch when she gets there. She gives you another little push, Joanna. Watch this. A pull. Look at her. She's like, no, I really want to go here. And she pulls her body around, and then you follow her.
So anyone else? I'm not seeing any or hearing anything else. I'll tell you one I just saw was Zena's ears going down. She flattened her ears for a second.
And this is one of Zena's things that we've seen her do. This is where she's pretending to sniff, but if I could get close and see her, I guarantee you she's actually looking at the trigger, which in this case was the camera girl.
Tail is down. Very good, Pam. Yeah, German Shepherd's tail is naturally a little low, but Zena's is pretty like low and non-moving. So that's a good stress signal.
So if this was your dog and the camera person was the trigger, would you say that Zena wants to go meet her, or she's saying, nah, I don't want to? That's it.
I don't want to.
Right, right.
Yeah.
And this is what a lot of owners do, is they end up walking towards the trigger, forcing the dog to just take it. But what Joanna did here is she goes, how about sniff over here at this distance? All right. Tail is down. Good. Do you want to watch it again? Did you guys get it? Casey, do you have anything to say?
No, yeah, so her head was down like majority of the time. Would that be a signal, or is that more she's just like sniffing?
Definitely head down, and you see her disengaging and engaging, like kind of like she's looking and then she looks away. So she's saying, this is my interpretation. Tell me if I'm wrong, Joanna, but she's saying, get the F away from my tree. Right?
I agree. She's conflicted because she really wants, there must be something that smells really good about that tree, but like you said, it's avoidance too. There's someone really close to it. So she's kind of like, I want to go to that tree, but there's someone there. I don't,
There's the lip lick.
Mm-hmm.
Definitely a good sight, though. Her head is really low. So if a dog is holding their head low, but she's not always sniffing, you can kind of see she's pretending to sniff. But her body is crouched low. We see this a lot in collies and spaniels. They actually called flat dog. They get really low and then they leap out of it. And we've seen Zena do this. She gets really low and then lunges forward. So it could be sniffing. It could be her trying to relax. But there's also a chance that she could just be about to pounce. So taking note of the situation is going to be really important there as well.
So I'm drawing over here. If this was the trigger, Joanna's position, she's basically telling Zena, I want you to go this way, by the way that her body's opened up. I probably would have suggested you going back just a little bit further this way and giving her more of an opportunity. You're kind of closed in. She's got the tree, she's got a person here, and then you're closed in right here. So if you had just moved over a tiny bit, if needed, nothing really happened, but I'm just saying it, like if she did overreact or bark, this would be the only suggestion I had, is if you had opened up a tiny little bit and just kind of relax. You're still really tense right there.
Yeah.
All right.
But hindsight is always 20/20, right? It's really easy. And analyzing the video, it's a lot more difficult when you're in the moment. So we definitely understand the reaction of holding things tight. But I agree with you. I would have brought it out wider, not only so that you had more space to get out to, but so that Xena could keep her eyes on the trigger while she retreated. There's nothing scarier than running around a corner and you not knowing when or if something's going to get you. So letting her keep her eye there, it would be really helpful as well.
And then here you opened up a little bit, and then Xena decided to go in the other direction. Which is good. Yeah. And there you are following her. So perfect.
So
All
follow
right.
your dog, stop when your dog stops, and definitely keep your eyes on your own dog. So talking about desensitizing under the threshold, I cannot tell you how many times we get clients that say, well, if I just expose my dog to it enough, she'll just get used to it. But that is not the case. That's absolutely not the case. Just because you are around something scary doesn't mean it's going to get less scary over time. For some dogs, it can have the opposite effect, and it can overload their system into more anxiety because if something's always going to be there, they can work their way up into anxiety until that trigger is there. So it's not just about exposure, it's about exposure under threshold. So I'm going to let Yo take it from here. This is an example that we did in June.
Yeah. So here's a video on using the sound of fireworks, but any sound that is a trigger. I'm assuming if your dog has some triggers, even my dog, hears another dog barking and still gets up and goes, what was that? So this video demonstrates how to expose your dog to a sound. Using your phone and using YouTube is a great source for you to find the sounds that could possibly be triggers. If you know for sure that your dog has a trigger that is a sound, find it on YouTube. You're going to take the video and you're going to take your volume down to the very, very minimum where you can barely hear it. And you're going to expose them to the sound while you're giving them something that they like to do, whether that's petting, it's feeding time, or play. You'd have someone else hold the phone at a pretty far proximity so that they can maybe slightly hear it, but really not know what it is. Do that for about 2 minutes. So sound means play, petting, food. As soon as the sound turns off, so does the rest of all those reinforcements stop, whatever that reinforcement is. So here we have, there are 3 newfies. 2 of them this is last June. We were exposing them to the sound of fireworks. She now has 5 dogs. They're all over 100 and something pounds. And we were doing exposure to 4th of July fireworks.
So that they didn't break through the window when they heard something scary, right? Because these dogs could do some real damage if they are scared. And the same method works for any scary or nervous stimuli that you have control over, right? I can't just bring an unknown dog into my house and disappear him. But with a sound or an object like a leash or a vacuum cleaner, we have the ability to slowly and gently expose them to these things where they're still able to take food, where they're still able to look at us when needed, and they're not overly drooling or shaking or any. These dogs drool all the time anyway. I don't want you to take that as they're nervous.
And they're panting because they're getting food and they love food. So they're panting. It looks like stress, but it's just panting because they love doing this. So
and if you're by yourself and you don't have a partner, you can either put it in your pocket or you can put it under a towel. So I've had to do that. If you're by yourself and you can't add distance or the volume's too high, you can always put it under a towel.
So a rule of thumb, if your dog is not taking the reinforcement, whether it's food or petting, and they're showing signs of stress, it means that the sound is too close, and you'll need to back up or stop and then maybe start over later in the afternoon. So turning the volume down, putting it further away, just moving it further away, or increasing the reinforcement or the reward that you're giving.
And in the end story is that these dogs did wonderful on 4th of July. They slept through the whole thing. They didn't have a single problem. But again, they prepared before it was time. So they didn't do this the night before. They really worked on this for, you know, a couple of weeks and really helped their dogs get used to those sudden changes.
He ended up, because they are right in Huntington, right where the fireworks happened. So they actually ended up by the end putting this in the surround sound of their house and having it full blast. And each of the dogs had something like a bully stick to chew on, and they could care less. So that is your goal for each of the triggers, each of the stressors that are sound related, is to implement them at a very, very easy way or very low volume so that your dogs are okay with it.
So tell me a sound that your dog is averse to in the chat. Just type up one sound. I know yo's is probably skateboards for Bentley, right?
He can do the sound. So I've done this a lot with the
Okay.
sound. Yeah, we used to
just do it 10 minutes.
Vacuum. Yeah, good. Fireworks is a big one for Jade. Yeah, because we're in Huntington Beach. There's always big block parties for us. My dog she hears a cat. She hears a cat meow. Even on the TV, it's like, it's game over. She's a professional cat hunter. So doorbell,
door knocks.
Yeah. Fireworks, vacuum. That's what we're seeing. Yeah, pretty consistently. So all of these are workable. They all have sounds on YouTube. So if that's what dogs barking, great one. Christy, great one. Dogs barking. There are all sorts of recorded barks on YouTube. So I'd like for each one of you to pick a sound off of YouTube and work on this with your dog this week.
Every day. If you could do it every day. So if you sit with your dog and they're doing this, it's 2 minutes before you can raise the volume. So 2 minutes at a time. If everything goes well and they're taking food and they're enjoying it and they're like, yeah, I don't care, wait 2 minutes before you turn up the volume. And it's very small increments at first, making sure that you don't put your dog over threshold. All right. The interval walk training. So a little challenge we want you to do. You'll notice in that video that we shot earlier with us going the U-turn and the T-turn, that you change your pace from slow to fast. When you see a trigger, it's natural. We even saw it with Joanna and Zena when they were partnering up and walking. Everything kind of slowed down when the dog got close to the trigger, and then it kind of sped back up when everything was clear. So the challenge that we'd like you to try is in your neighborhood or wherever you're walking your dog, go back and forth between those two paces of slow and then fast, and maybe even faster and then back slow without saying anything. See if your dog can understand that your footsteps are determining the speed of their walk.
In class, sometimes we call this red light, green light, right? We're not able to call out the sounds and you're not stopping, but you're getting excited. You're moving at a quicker pace. Your dog, you could see Bentley's head oh, we're walking fast. Okay, Mom, I'm here with you. And then slow down, catch your breath. And here she goes again. Yep. And actually, I mean, even Yo, she's not talking or anything, but she's smiling. She's having fun because she's trying to trick her dog as to speeding up and slowing down. And this can get just like running in intervals can actually help tire your dog physically out without having to go a full 8-mile walk in the morning.
But it keeps your dog engaged. They're like, what are we doing? You know, it really does keep them watching you and reading your body language, right? I thought it was hilarious because
every time, look, he looks right at you and then he speeds up with you. So he's in it for sure. And I think a lot of you could really get some cute videos if you have someone else in the house that can maybe videotape you. It doesn't have to be every other house. It could be every other car. It could be every other tree.
Let's try it. Yeah.
Changing during intervals, going faster and slower than you would on your regular walk. This is an enrichment walk. This would count as an enrichment walk as well.
So to recap, we talked about luring, capturing, shaping, targeting. I know that's very new to some of you, and we just wanted to go over the different methods because you might have never heard them. We taught you a little bit about emergency turns, the U and the T, and when that you could apply that if needed. Check out our social media for home enrichment ideas. We have a YouTube channel that you can subscribe to, and anytime we post a new video, it lets you know. But the video that we posted in today's webinar, we'll go ahead and post to our Facebook group, that private group page. Homework, we talked about the body language count challenge and to desensitize under threshold with sound. So pick some sound that your dog has as a trigger. Target to move and treat on the go. That's included in the U-turns and the T's. Try to, when you are feeding your dog on your walk, see if your feet are moving, and then try to speed up your feet while your feet are moving. Speed up your feet while you're treating your dog to see if they understand, like, oh, okay. Interval walk training. And for homework, we have, I guess that was your homework, huh?
Homework is everything in pink, as well as treating on the go and picking a sound to desensitize. We'd like to have you, when we post this particular slide on Facebook, we'd like for you to send us pictures or video of you guys doing your emergency U-turns, picking an enrichment feeder, letting us know the body language count. You can either do that in class next week or let us know on the Facebook. My dog does it 15 times a day, so I'm actually going to try to keep a good count as well. And then the interval walk training, if you can have a partner, catch you while you're doing it. If you want to videotape your dog while you're interval walking, sometimes I do that with my dog. We just want to see you guys out there in the community working, because right now with a lot less people and a lot less off-leash dogs and accidents and kids running around, right now is the perfect time to work on all of this. So while we have this blessing in disguise, let's take advantage of it.
Yeah. So any questions before we sign off? Again, this is recorded. We will have a video to that we'll have a link to this video that we did today. What we'll do is screenshot the main page, the Rowdy Rover. This is class 3, Rowdy Rover class 3. We'll post that little screenshot to our Facebook private group page, and with that picture under comments is where you can share your video. So if there's a video that you'd like to share, whether it's settle on a mat or your interval walks, if there's something that you want us to take a look at and kind of give you feedback, we did have a couple people turn in some video. Pam, thank you so much for your treat
Tournament. That was so great. We loved watching it.
Wasn't that fun? That was really fun. I enjoyed some of the pictures that we got back from that. So
any other questions? Oh, you have a question? Yep, Erica, go for it. Type your question up. I did notice that you had your hand up, but it doesn't look like we have sound on yours. So.
Oh, let's see. How do allowed to talk? It's just, I don't have a mouse because I'm in play mode. So I think you have the mouse.
It's not telling me. It says that I can chat with her, but not that I can hear her. So go ahead and type up that question for us, Erica, and we'll do our best to answer it.
Oh, it's telling me to promote to Pelhams. Yeah. So again, we have 2 classes coming up, one on Thursday and one on Saturday. They are different than this type of class. It's a class for you and your dog. So this will be, we'll teach, we'll give you a video, we'll instruct something, and then we'll have you be working with your dog. We have small group class setups that we're going to do. If you don't want to be featured, you don't have to share your video, but it's for us to immediately give you feedback and give you instructions, hands-on, virtually hands-on. So
we don't have to wash our hands after we have our hands on.
Yeah, we've had some great success on our private coaching. We actually have really enjoyed the process of being able to speak and talk to our clients this way, just because they listen, because they're not, they don't have their dogs right there. So
it's a lot easier to concentrate when you're not worried about, especially with a reactive dog, 100% of your focus is on your dog all the time. So we're not always listening to the capacity that we can. So we really appreciate you guys showing up. And this is all the education. Like, if we could talk to you forever, this is the kind of stuff that Yo and I sit around and geek out about. So if you do have questions or you want a little more in-depth explanations, please let us know.
Yeah, you have some
but this is
topics.
Okay, so we have the question. For Lila, she tends to bark when someone enters the house and she's not expecting anyone. Like when we have friends and family come over. I was wondering how to desensitize under threshold when it includes the door opening, closing, and people entering the house. Go for it, Yo.
Those are two different triggers. You've got the noise of, was it the door opening or the doorbell?
People coming in and out of the door. Yeah.
Okay, so if it's the door opening, that's something you can work on separately. People coming through the door is a visual, and that's a different, I mean, it's the process is exactly the same. If you remember in last week's class, we talked about the management of going to the spot, and they're at a big distance. So I would first start off with the noise of someone at the door, whether it's the opening of the door, the knocking of the door, the doorbell ringing, whatever that sound is, implement the desensitizing under threshold sound that we had you do earlier. Do that first. So you can record on your phone. If you have an iPhone, there's a record button. You can literally put it up the door and turn the doorknob and open and close it, and just have that on recording and work on desensitizing that sound. Then the visual of people walking in, that's where I can send you a private message. We did hit that last week, but I would do that separately.
So we can definitely go into more visual desensitization. That's what I'm seeing a lot on here. And then Pam would like us to talk more about loose leash walking. How does your dog know the difference between Batt and loose leash walking? For our dogs in particular, my dog gets the hook right here on the front if we're loose leash walking. That includes a little bit of sniffy time, but not the unlimited exploration time of Batt. When it's on the back hook, she knows it's her walk, it's her time. It's really difficult to switch in between. So try to go out with a singular purpose, like this is going to be our Batt walk, or this is going to be loose leash walking. Urban Batt is its whole nother advanced level of a combination of the two, and we will get into that. But
we're setting you up, Pam.
Yeah, we're setting you up. So the difference being the attention. So the difference being with a loose leash walking that your dog is still engaging with you, and with Batt, we would really like for our dog's focus and attention to remain in the environment and the situation that they're in. So that
I'll
would be
answer
like
that question a little differently. For me, I do use the Batt leash for even just loose leash walking, but I'll say, let's go, which means we're going back to the sidewalk. It's my walk. It's an exercise walk. A lot of times I'm having to reinforce because now he prefer to do a Batt walk and lead the way. But when I'm walking and I want to, today we walked 3.5 miles. Yesterday we walked 4.5 miles. So that exercise walk, a little faster pace, less sniffy time. And I'm in a let's go. And then what I'll do is I'll do a few stops along the way, and I'll do the both hands on the leash and just take a deep breath, and I'll take a step towards where I want him to sniff or where I think he would like to sniff. So I'll just deep breath in, exhale, drop my hands, and I'll step towards a tree and I'll say, go sniff. And I let him sniff for about 20, 30 seconds, maybe even a minute. And then when I'm done, or I notice that he's had enough or he's gotten bored, I'll go into let's go, and I'll go back into my fast-paced walk. It takes a while for your dogs to go back and forth, but if you always have a motion that you do every time you're making the difference, then your dogs will totally catch on, especially yours, Pam, totally catch on to the let's go and
giving them the appropriate realistic outlet. Like, your dog can't go for half an hour never stopping and never sniffing anything. If you're doing that to your dog, they're gonna start dreading their walks. So like she said, pick a spot where you guys are comfortable. You're gonna stop, I'll let you sniff this yard, but when I say let's go, let's get going. And that's the loose leash walk. Whereas the Batt is it's your time. You take your, as long as you want to really explore the smell.
For Pam, for you, for Sasha, not for you, Pam, but for Sasha, I'd probably walk on the street when I wanted to walk on my walk. And then I would walk into the sidewalk and give her access to the trees and the grass, because when you're on that short little sidewalk in your neighborhood, you're just too close to what they want. So street, let's go. And sidewalk or the grass in, in people's yards, it would be a go sniff. So try it and see if you can, go back and forth, but it's something we're going to touch up in a little bit. I think it's 2 classes from now. We're going to go into more of that style of walk. We just need you to understand the U-turn, the T-turn, and all of those things, because there are going to be some emergency bailouts that you're going to need when you're walking in your neighborhood. All right. So that ends our class today. Again, thank you so much for your support. Julie and I are having such a great time doing these webinars for you. The best thing that you can do to support us as a small business is just share on social media. Let everyone know that you're taking a class with us and how awesome it is, and get the word out there. So thank you again very much. We know that you have lots of choices, so thanks a lot for choosing us.
Yes, thank you. If there's something specific you'd like to see in class or you'd like to give us feedback on, please let us know. This class is about you guys and about your needs. So let's give you the relevant information that you need.
All right.
Cool.
Bye. Bye,
Have a
guys.
good night.
Bye,
Bye, guys.
Julie.
Bye.
Bye again, Julie.
Bye again.